Chapter 4. 4 days later, the first issue of the Arkham Advertiser was delivered to me, left under a stone on top of what remained of the pillar at the roadside. I had entered a 6-month subscription when I had taken the opportunity of studying its files for mention of my great-uncle. I resisted my initial impulse to discard it, for I had subscribed merely as a courtesy in return for the privilege accorded me, and carried it into the house. Though I had no intention of reading it, a 2-column heading caught my eye. Dunwich Disappearances Resume. Somewhat apprehensively, I read the story below. Seth Fry, 18, employed at the Howard Cole Farm immediately north of Dunwich, has been reported missing. He was last seen 3 nights ago walking out of Dunwich on his way home. This is the second disappearance in the Dunwich area in as many days. Harold Sawyer, 20, vanished from the outskirts of Dunwich without trace 2 days ago. Sheriff John Houghton and his deputies are searching the area, but as yet report no clue. Neither young man had any known reason to disappear voluntarily, and foul play is suspected. It will be remembered by older readers that a rash of similar disappearances took place over 20 years ago, culminating in the vanishing of Septimus Bishop in the summer of 1929. The Dunwich area is a backwater which has a curious reputation and has figured from time to time in the news, usually in a strange way, ever since the mysterious Wadley affair of 1928. I lowered the paper, overcome with the knowledge that events were shaping toward only one explanation, one I was loath even now to accept. It was then that I determined to set down everything that had occurred, in the hope of seeing everything that had happened in its proper relation, one event to another, for those events were hopelessly garbled in my mind, and I kept thinking of the bones that had disappeared from the cellar, and of Wilbur Wadley's words in his letter to my great-uncle. They from the air cannot help without human blood. They take body from it, as you, too, will be able to do. And of great-uncle Septimus's mysterious return, and his equally mysterious vanishing again, for there had been no sign of him since the sight I had had of him in the study. I threw the paper to the floor, my mind awhirl with the lore of warlocks and familiars, the power of running water to contain ghosts and witches, and all such superstitious manifestations, my reason embattled, besieged. Impelled by a wild curiosity to learn more, I ran from the house, unmindful of the brambles in my path. I pushed through the lane to the car, and drove down the road to Dunwich. I had hardly set foot into Tobias Wadley's shop before he confronted me, eyes ablaze.
"Get out! I won't wait on you,"
he cried fiercely.
"You done it!"
I found it impossible to break into his anger.
"Get out of town afore it happens again. We done it once, we can do it again. I known that boy, Seth, like I known my own. You done it, you cursed bishops."
I backed away from his naked hatred, and saw, as I retreated to my car, the way in which other inhabitants of Dunwich grouped along the street staring at me with unconcealed loathing. I got into the car and drove back out of Dunwich, knowing for the first time a spreading fear of the unknown, against which all rationalization was powerless. And once back at the Bishop house, I lit the lamp and descended to the cellar. I entered the tunnel and walked along it to the trap-door into the subterranean room. I lifted it, and such a charnel odor rose up from it, perhaps from that other opening I had never looked into below, for the room, as much as could be seen in the glow from my lamp, was unchanged from the last time I had looked into it, that I could not bring myself to descend. I dropped the trapdoor and fled back the way I had come. Against all reason, I knew now what horror I had unwittingly loosed upon the countryside, I and the blind forces of nature, the horror from the middle span. Later. Great-uncle Septimus has just awakened me from my dream-haunted sleep, a firm hand on my shoulder. I opened my eyes to see him dimly in the dark, and behind him the white, unclothed body of a long-haired woman, whose eyes shone as if with fire. "Nephew, we are in danger," said my great-uncle. "Come." He and his companion turned and left the study. I swung off the couch where I had fallen asleep, fully dressed, to set these last words to the account I have written. Outside, I can see the flickering of many torches. I know who is here at the wood's edge. The hateful inhabitants of Dunwich and the country around. I know what they mean to do. Great-uncle Septimus and his companion are waiting for me in the tunnel. There is no other course for me. If only they do not know of the door in the hillside. The Bishop manuscript ends at this point. By way of coincidence, seekers after Curiosa will find in the inside pages of the Arkham Advertiser dated 11 days after the destruction by fire of the old Bishop house this paragraph. The Dunwичers have been at it again. Hard upon the disappearance of Ambrose Bishop, the Dunwичers have been building again. The old Quarry Road Bridge, which was recently completely destroyed during a flash flood on the Miskatonic, apparently holds some charm for the Dunwичers, who have quietly rebuilt one of the central piers in concrete and crowned it with what old-timers in the area call the Elder Sign. No one in Dunwich, approached by our reporter, would admit any knowledge of the old bridge.